about a 2 or 3 year period in my life where I was extremely confused and extremely lost, like a lot of people in their 20s. My first suicide attempt was 14. My second suicide attempt was, I guess, at 20.
And, you know, I tried a few times, but I still can't blame her. I have to accept responsibility.
A TV star who once earned $1.8 million per episode now sleeps in his car. Another child actor discovered his parents stole $18 million while he was filming. One actress robbed a video store for just $160 after losing everything. These aren't made-up stories. These are real Hollywood stars who lost everything. Some to drugs, some to theft, some to mental illness. But all of them fell harder than you can imagine. Today, we reveal the shocking truth about 20 stars who lost it all. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen was once the king of television. In 2010, he was earning $1.8 million per episode on 2.5 Men. That made him the highest-paid actor on TV. At the time, his net worth was around $150 million. He had already built a solid film career with hits like Platoon, Wall Street, and Major League. Everything seemed perfect. But things started falling apart quickly. By March 2011, CBS and Warner Brothers cut ties with him. His contract was terminated. The reason? A mix of wild behavior, public drug use, and strange interviews. He said he had tiger blood and called himself a warlock. He also insulted the show's creator, Chuck Lorre. Behind the scenes, things were even worse. He was partying hard with adult film stars and acting completely out of control. It didn't take long before his wealth started disappearing. Legal fees piled up. He was paying alimony and child support to multiple ex-wives. His spending was out of control. In 2015, he went on TV and announced that he was HIV positive. His career took another huge hit. Even though he tried to make a comeback, including a 2022 project with his father, Martin Sheen, it didn't work. His name had become a cautionary tale. The fortune was gone, and the fame had turned into a mess. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman became a star in 1978 when he was just 10 years old. He played Arnold Jackson on the hit show Different Strokes, and his line, "What you talking about, Willis?" became famous around the world. At the peak of his fame, Gary earned $100,000 for every episode. He made around $18 million by the time the show ended, which would be more than $50 million today. But Gary didn't know that while he was acting and becoming a household name, his parents and manager were draining his bank account. When he turned 18, he found out the truth. They had used his money to buy fancy cars, expensive homes, and to live rich lives. When Gary went to court in 1989, there was only $220,000 left. That was all. His fight for justice cost him even more. At the same time, he had to deal with health problems. He had kidney disease and needed regular treatment. That wasn't cheap either. With his money gone, Gary had to find work like everyone else. He took jobs as a mall security guard and even worked as a train conductor. Fans would recognize him, but he was earning minimum wage. In 1999, he filed for bankruptcy. He owed $72,000 and had only $8,000 in assets. His later years were full of sadness. He had several run-ins with the law and struggled emotionally. In 2010, he passed away at just 42 years old after a brain hemorrhage. He never recovered from the betrayal of the people who should have protected him the most. Dana Plato. Dana Plato was also a star on Different Strokes. She played Kimberly Drummond, the sweet and caring sister. Dana was adopted as a baby and began acting in commercials before she was even a teenager. When she landed the role at 13, She quickly became one of America's favorite young stars. During her time on the show, she earned good money and was featured on magazine covers. But things started to fall apart when she became pregnant at 19. The producers thought her pregnancy didn't match her clean image, so they wrote her out of the show. She married the baby's father, Lanny Lambert, and had a son named Tyler. Around that time, she gave control of her money to an accountant. That decision ruined her. The accountant vanished with nearly all her earnings. She was left with just $150,000, which would be around $410,000 today. A tiny piece of what she had once earned. Then everything started to collapse. In 1988, she split from her husband and lost her mother the same week. She began struggling heavily with drugs and alcohol. During her divorce in 1990, she lost custody of her son. Dana later admitted she had started using drugs as young as 14. She tried to make money however she could, posing for Playboy, acting in low-budget films, and even adult movies. But none of it helped her rebuild what she had lost. By 1991, Dana was so desperate that she robbed a video store in Las Vegas. She wore a hat and sunglasses, but the clerk recognized her right away. He told police, "I've just been robbed by the girl who played Kimberly on Different Strokes." She only stole $160. She was caught within 15 minutes and sentenced to 5 years of probation. Radio hosts made jokes and songs about the robbery. Dana eventually took a job at a dry cleaner, far from the spotlight she once knew. In 1999, she appeared on The Howard Stern Show trying to show the world that she was clean. She even offered to take a drug test live on air. But off the air, she begged Howard not to go through with it. The next day, she was found dead in an RV in Oklahoma. She was just 34. The coroner later ruled it a suicide. The drugs in her system were strong, Soma and Lortab. She had no note, no final message, just silence, and a broken life that had started with so much promise. Todd Bridges. Todd Bridges was just a teenager when he became famous for playing Willis Jackson on Different Strokes. The show made him a household name from 1978 to 1986, and it brought him money, attention, and fame. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart fast. At just 15, while still filming the show, he started smoking marijuana. That was the beginning of a long, dark road. Then came a bigger blow. His accountant stole nearly $3 million from him, the money he had worked hard to earn. But it wasn't just the theft that hurt. Todd later found out that his own father knew about it and never said a word. He had been angry over his divorce from Todd's mother and took it out by staying silent. Because the theft wasn't discovered for 3 years, they could only get back 6 months' worth of the stolen money. The rest was gone. That kind of betrayal, combined with the trauma Todd had faced earlier in life, pushed him deeper into trouble. When he was 12, his publicist sexually abused him. His father didn't believe him. That pain, buried deep, came roaring back. Todd turned to crack cocaine and meth to escape it all. He even started dealing drugs to pay for his addiction. In 1989, he was arrested for attempted murder after a drug dealer was shot. But he was later cleared when a witness confirmed he wasn't at the scene. Danny Bonaduce. Danny Bonaduce had a very different path, but it ended in the same darkness. He was the funny redhead kid on The Partridge Family, which ran from 1970 to 1974. People loved him. But one day, when Danny was 15, he and his mother showed up at the studio as usual. A guard told them, "Go home. The Partridge Family doesn't live here anymore." That was it. No warning. No goodbye. Danny had no savings, no career plan, and no idea what to do. His life spiraled. He ended up living in his car behind Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. Fans would recognize him and ask for autographs, even as he slept in the back seat. His drug use got out of control. He once mixed water and cocaine, poured it into nose bottles, stood on his head until his face went numb, and then drove to Mexico. After finally going to rehab in 1989, doctors warned him not to drink, but he ignored them. Within 3 years, he had become a full-blown alcoholic again, a battle that lasted 20 years. His turnaround started with David Cassidy, his former co-star. Cassidy dragged him onto a tour bus and laid down strict rules: no drinking, no drugs, no women. That strange but strict environment helped Danny clean up. He eventually got a job in radio, and for the first time in years, he had a steady life. Brett Butler. Brett Butler was once one of the highest-paid stars on television. She earned $250,000 for every episode of Grace Under Fire. The show pulled in nearly 20 million viewers a week during its early seasons. By the mid-1990s, she had made around $25 million. But it didn't last. What started as a prescription for sciatica turned into a full-blown addiction to Vicodin. From that point, everything began to fall apart. Her behavior on set became impossible to ignore. She once flashed her chest at a 12-year-old cast member. That child left the show. Other actors followed. Julie White quit because of her. Eventually, ABC had no choice but to shut everything down during the 5th season. Butler went to rehab again, but it was already too late. The show was canceled. Her addiction only got worse. She later admitted she had done everything but crack and needles. When the money ran out, she left Los Angeles. She ended up on a farm in Georgia. Eventually, she found herself in a homeless shelter, completely broke and alone. Margot Kidder. Margot Kidder had a similar fall. She played Lois Lane in the Superman films from 1978 to 1987. She was famous around the world. Fans loved her chemistry with Christopher Reeve. She won a Saturn Award and was nominated for a Golden Globe. But behind the success, she was battling bipolar disorder. In 1988, she was officially diagnosed. Things would only get worse. In April 1996, she vanished for 4 days. During that time, she wandered Los Angeles on foot. She went from LAX to Glendale, miles and miles, day and night. People didn't recognize her. She had no teeth, dirty clothes, and her hair was chopped off. One man, a car salesman, paid $33 for her to stay at a motel. She had told him that thugs were after her. She was later found hiding in bushes, scared and confused. Police took her to a psychiatric hospital. That episode changed everything. But Kidder didn't give up. In later years, she became an outspoken advocate for mental health. She passed away in 2018 at the age of 69. John Michael Vincent. John Michael Vincent was also a star once. In the 1980s, he starred in Airwolf and made $200,000 per episode. Before that, he had major roles in The Mechanic, Big Wednesday, and The Winds of War. That last one even earned him a Golden Globe nomination. He was good-looking, talented, and earning millions. But his personal life was falling apart. He struggled with alcohol and drugs for decades. He was arrested for cocaine, for drunk driving, and for fighting in bars. In 1986, he was sentenced to jail, but avoided it by going to rehab. Then came the car accidents, one after another. In 1996, he almost died in a crash that broke his neck and damaged his vocal cords. After that, he could only whisper. His acting career ended. He couldn't work anymore, and the medical bills piled up. In the end, he had nothing left. He died in 2019 at the age of 74. His death wasn't even reported for weeks. Erin Moran. Erin Moran also knew what fame felt like. She played Joni Cunningham on Happy Days, one of the most beloved sitcoms ever. She started acting when she was a child and stayed on TV for most of her early life. She even got her own spin-off, Joni Loves Chachi. But after the show ended, things went downhill. She couldn't find roles. She and her husband lost their California home. They moved into a trailer in Indiana with his mother. Then they were kicked out of that trailer. They ended up in motels. Locals remembered seeing her at a restaurant nearly every day. She told strangers she had lost all her money. They were kicked out of several motels for partying and bad behavior. Even after a lawsuit settlement from CBS brought in some cash, it didn't last. She appeared on Celebrity Fit Club in 2010, and people said she seemed drunk. Her finances were gone. Her health was failing. She died in 2017 from stage 4 throat cancer at age 56. There were no drugs found at the scene, just another life slowly broken by pain, addiction, and the spotlight. Leif Garrett. Leif Garrett was born on November 8, 1961, and by the time he was a teenager, he was already a star. With his blonde hair, blue eyes, and soft smile, he became a heartthrob across America in the 1970s. His music took off with songs like I Was Made for Dancin', and he covered classics like Surfin' USA and Run Around Sue. He wasn't just a singer, he acted too. He showed up in popular TV shows like Chips and movies like The Outsiders, playing Bob Sheldon. At the peak of his fame, money flowed in from record deals and acting gigs. Fans screamed his name. Posters of him lined teenage bedrooms. But fame didn't last. In 1979, everything changed. Leif was driving a Porsche. He had been drinking and possibly using drugs. He crashed into another car, and his friend in the passenger seat was left permanently paralyzed. That crash didn't just hurt his friend. It broke something inside Leif, too. His career never recovered. As he grew older, the offers disappeared. The world that once adored him had moved on, and he didn't know how to deal with that. He started using black tar heroin. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It became his way of coping. The addiction ate away at his body, his mind, and his money. The teen idol turned into a lost man, desperate and hooked. By the early 2000s, he was barely surviving. In 2006, at 44 years old, he got arrested in Pershing Square for riding the subway without a ticket and for carrying drugs. He didn't even have enough money for public transport. He had also been in trouble earlier that year for cocaine possession. In fact, his arrests stretched back into the 1990s. In 1999, he was caught trying to buy drugs from an undercover officer in MacArthur Park. This once glamorous star was now living a life most wouldn't recognize. No tours, no red carpets, just court dates, rehab stays, and moments of total despair. Legal fees, rehab bills, and the total collapse of his income pushed him into the darkest places. He even faced periods of homelessness. Amanda Peterson. Amanda Peterson's story was quieter, but in some ways, even more painful. She was born on July 8, 1971, and started acting by the age of 9. Her early roles, like the one in Annie, showed she had talent. But it was Can't Buy Me Love in 1987 that made her famous. She played Cindy Mancini, the dream girl. She was just 16 when the movie came out. It didn't matter that critics were unsure about the film. Audiences loved her. For a brief moment, Amanda was one of Hollywood's most loved young stars. After that, she landed more roles. She starred in A Year in the Life, a show that won an Emmy, and she won a Young Artist Award in 1988 for her performance. She also acted alongside respected stars like Roy Scheider in Listen to Me and appeared in Fatal Charm. She had momentum, but it didn't last. The offers slowed down. Her roles became smaller. And in 1994, after filming Windrunner, she left Hollywood completely. She went back to her hometown, Greeley, Colorado. Fans thought she had just quit showbiz, but the truth was far more tragic. When Amanda was 15, something happened that changed her life forever. She was raped by a man twice her age. She didn't tell anyone at first. 2 years later, she finally opened up to her mother. Her father wanted to press charges, but she refused. The trauma didn't just hurt her, it changed who she was. Her father said that after the assault, something in her spirit dimmed. She became more closed off, less trusting. That sparkle she had on screen began to fade. As the years passed, the pain stayed with her. She started using drugs to cope. First heroin, then, later, meth. She tried to move on, but it wasn't easy. From 2002 to 2012, she was arrested 5 times. The last arrest was for a DUI and possession of narcotic equipment. This once celebrated actress was now living in a small apartment in Greeley, far from the cameras, struggling with addiction and poverty. In July 2015, Amanda was supposed to have dinner with her family. She didn't show up. On July 5th, police entered her apartment and found her dead. She was 43. The autopsy showed she died from respiratory failure. It was an accidental overdose, morphine mixed with gabapentin, a nerve medication she had been prescribed after a hysterectomy. Her mother believed she had been clean, but the damage of years of pain and addiction had already been done. Corey Haim. Corey Haim was once one of the biggest teen stars in Hollywood. In the 1980s, everyone knew his name. His big moment came in 1987 with The Lost Boys. He played the younger brother fighting vampires, and people loved him for it. That film made him a star. He and Corey Feldman became known as the Two Coreys. Before that, he had already impressed audiences in Lucas, 1986, and later starred in License to Drive, 1988, and Dream a Little Dream, 1989. For a while, it looked like Corey Haim had it all: fame, talent, and a bright future. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart. By the end of the 80s, he was deep into drugs. The addiction took over his life. In the late 1990s, he was broke and forgotten by Hollywood. He became so desperate that he tried to sell his hair and teeth on eBay just to survive. In July 1997, he filed for bankruptcy. His assets were heartbreaking: only $100 in cash, a red 1987 Alfa Romeo from one of his old films, $750 worth of clothes, a $31,000 pension, and some royalties valued at $7,500. But his debts were massive. He owed $100,000 to the IRS and another $100,000 in other unpaid bills. His final days were a tragic blur. Between February 2nd and March 5th, 2010, just days before he died, he managed to get 553 pills from 7 doctors and pharmacies. That included 195 tablets of Valium, 194 of Soma, 149 of Vicodin, and 15 of Xanax. On March 10, 2010, Corey Haim died at just 38 years old. The cause was pulmonary congestion. His heart was enlarged, and his lungs were full of fluid. It was a painful, lonely end for someone who once lit up the screen. Lisa Robin Kelly. Lisa Robin Kelly also had a quick rise to fame. She became known for playing Laurie Foreman, the wild and sharp-tongued older sister on That 70s Show. Her role made her famous, even landing her the number 6 spot on Maxim's list of top TV nymphos. She had started acting at 21, with a small role on Married, with Children in 1992. She later showed up on Murphy Brown, The X-Files, and Silk Stockings. But everything changed when she got the role of Laurie at 28. For a couple of years, Lisa lived the dream. She was a rising star with a hit show and even landed a movie role in Jawbreaker, 1999. But the fame didn't last. During the 3rd season of That 70s Show, her drug use became a problem. She was fired from the show. Around the same time, she suffered a personal tragedy, the loss of her baby. That loss pushed her into heavy drinking. Her legal problems soon piled up. She was arrested for DUI in 2010 in North Carolina. Then came another DUI in 2012, and later that year, she was arrested for assault after a fight with her husband. In just 3 years, she was arrested 4 times. She tried to come back. She briefly returned to the show in season 5 and was offered 13 episodes for season 6. But she could only film a few before her personal struggles forced her to step away again. She said she was clean for 2 years. Her agent backed her up, but addiction had its grip on her. On August 15, 2013, just days after she checked into rehab in Altadena, California, she died in her sleep. She was 43. The cause was multiple drug intoxication. It was ruled accidental. Later, her estranged husband filed a wrongful death lawsuit, blaming the rehab center for negligence. Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid's story went in a completely different but equally shocking direction. He was a respected actor for decades. Most people remember him best as Cousin Eddie in the National Lampoon's vacation films. He brought comedy and heart to the screen, and the public loved him for it. He made millions throughout the 80s and 90s, appearing in hit after hit. He starred in Independence Day in 1996 and in Brokeback Mountain in 2005, a role that earned him a BAFTA nomination. Then it all began to unravel. By 2010, Randy and his wife Evie were on the run. They fled to Canada and made wild claims that a group they called Hollywood Star Whackers were trying to kill celebrities and steal their money. The claims were strange and alarming. Meanwhile, the couple was facing multiple charges in the United States. They had been arrested for vandalism, burglary, and squatting in a home they used to own in Santa Barbara. With no stable home, they bounced from one cheap motel to another. Legal troubles drained their savings. Randy's career vanished. No one in Hollywood wanted to work with him anymore. His bizarre public rants about conspiracies made sure of that. He had gone from BAFTA-nominated actor to outcast. Once one of the most reliable comedy stars in the business, Randy Quaid ended up homeless, paranoid, and unemployable. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes was a superstar in the 90s. Everyone knew him from Blade, White Men Can't Jump, and other action-packed hits. Between 1999 and 2004, he earned about $37 million. The Blade trilogy made hundreds of millions around the world. Long before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he was their first true box office hero. But what brought him down wasn't a failed movie. It was the tax man. For 5 years, he didn't file federal tax returns. He had advisors who convinced him that he didn't have to pay. That lie cost him everything. In 2008, he was found guilty of tax evasion. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He served about 2.5 years in a Pennsylvania prison from 2010 to 2013. By then, his finances were destroyed. His bank accounts were empty. His $1.6 million mansion in New Jersey went into foreclosure. His 4 children were left with nothing. When he got out, he tried to return to acting. He had roles in The Expendables 3 and Chi-Raq, but his A-list days were over. Hollywood had moved on, and he was left to rebuild from scratch. Stephen Baldwin. Stephen Baldwin had a promising start. As the youngest of the Baldwin brothers, he stood out in the 90s with films like The Usual Suspects and comedies like Biodome and The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas. He was making millions. But unlike Alec or William, Stephen made a big shift that changed everything. In the late 2000s, he left mainstream films to focus on Christian content. That move cut off his income at the worst possible time. Then came the 2008 financial crash. It hit him hard. By 2009, he filed for bankruptcy. He owed over $2.3 million. That included $1 million to the IRS, $700,000 in credit card debt, and $1.2 million in mortgage payments. The house wasn't even worth that much anymore. His tax problems got worse. He failed to file state income taxes for 3 years. In 2012, he was arrested for it. The charges included $343,068 in unpaid taxes and penalties. Some people said his foreclosure was a business strategy. But whatever it was, it marked the end of a career that once showed real promise. Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser once ruled the big screen. In the late 90s and early 2000s, he was everywhere. Big-budget hits like The Mummy, George of the Jungle, and Bedazzled made him a fan favorite. His role as Rick O'Connell in The Mummy turned him into a full-blown action hero. He had charm, physicality, and perfect comic timing. At his peak, he was earning over $200,000 a month. It seemed like nothing could slow him down. But everything changed fast. Fraser insisted on doing many of his own stunts. That decision came at a brutal cost. Years of damage left him needing surgeries, back, knees, even his vocal cords. He was in and out of hospitals for nearly 7 years. While his body broke down, his personal life collapsed too. In 2009, he divorced Afton Smith. The court ordered him to pay $50,000 a month in alimony, plus another $25,000 for child support. That meant $900,000 a year, just to stay in compliance. Then came taxes, $34,000 per month. Mortgage, $5,000 monthly. Agent fees, they took more than half of whatever was left. For a man once on top of the world, Fraser was drowning in expenses. And the pain wasn't only physical or financial. In 2003, he said he was sexually assaulted by Philip Burke, then president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. The incident left him ashamed, withdrawn, and deeply depressed. Roles stopped coming. Studios stopped calling. By 2013, he went to court in Connecticut, asking to reduce his payments because he could no longer keep up. It was hard to believe that the man who once fronted billion-dollar franchises was pleading financial hardship. Natasha Lion. Natasha Lion had her breakout moment in the late 90s too. Her raspy voice and tough attitude made her unforgettable in films like American Pie and But I'm a Cheerleader. She had something different. Not polished, not perfect, but real. That raw edge brought her fame, and soon, chaos. Her addiction to heroin took over quickly. By the early 2000s, her career had stalled. In 2001, she was arrested for drunk driving. In 2004, she missed a court hearing after being charged with destroying property. Her friend, actor Michael Rappaport, had let her live in one of his New York apartments. But when he flew in to check on it, he found it wrecked. Trash everywhere. Broken glass, dead animals, even faces. He evicted her. She ended up homeless, shooting heroin in the streets. Then came the real crash. In 2005, Lion spent 5 months in intensive care at Beth Israel Hospital in New York. She had hepatitis C, a collapsed lung, a serious heart infection, and track marks up and down her arms. Her body was failing. She was just 30. And as if things couldn't get worse, she missed another court hearing while she was still in the hospital. That time, it was for allegedly threatening to molest a neighbor's dog. She later called that the lowest point of her life. It was the moment she realized she was losing everything. Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes had one of the brightest careers in her generation. She started on Nickelodeon's All That before leading her own show, The Amanda Show. Then came hits like She's the Man in Easy A. She was rich, talented, and loved by millions. For a while, it looked like she was going to be the next big Hollywood success story. Then, it all crumbled. In 2010, right after Easy A, she quit acting through a random tweet. Later, she admitted it was a terrible choice. But there was more going on. Behind the scenes, Amanda was abusing Adderall. She later said it was the drug she misused the most. It affected her memory and focus. She had to drop out of the 2011 movie Hall Pass. Her public life turned chaotic. Between 2010 and 2014, she was arrested several times. She tweeted strange, disturbing things. She accused celebrities of horrible acts. She wore wigs in court. Her behavior became so erratic that it dominated headlines around the world. In 2013, her parents were granted a conservatorship. It lasted nearly a decade, ending in 2022. But even after that, her struggles weren't over. In March 2023, she walked through downtown Los Angeles completely naked. She flagged down a car and called 911 on herself. Doctors placed her on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. Just 3 months later, it happened again. She was found talking about hurting herself and was detained.